Inspired Talks, Pranam Mantra. Om Namah Shri Yatirajaya Vivekananda Suraye Satchit Sukhaswarupaya Swamine Tapaharine. So, we are having this Inspired Talks, and we are covering the talks Swamiji had on 25th June. So, we had stopped at the point where Swamiji was talking about that life and death both are Maya. And then we had stopped at one particular point where we had mentioned that we would start it from the next day we had mentioned, and it was regarding the idea of God from the standpoint of Advaita. And before I begin, you see, I remember my early days when I was a student, as also when I was a young monk. I remember in those days, I loved reading Swamiji's book named Lectures from Colombo to Almora. This Indian lectures. When Swamiji had returned from the West, he reached Colombo, and from Colombo, he came to Pamban, and from there, slowly, he moved upward, that is northward, and reached Kolkata. On way, he had delivered quite a few talks, and those talks are a masterpiece, and I sincerely wish to explain those talks someday, because in those talks, Swamiji covers the entire history, culture, nature, future, everything of India. Indian religion, everything. Even now, when I read those talks or that book, it's in the third volume of Complete Works. It's amazing. The very idea that Swamiji had got the very soul of India at such a young age, when the books were not so freely available as we have today, and information was not available. It's amazing. But as I grew, and as on today, I admire that work, Lectures from Colombo to Almora, but I have outgrown that. Now I am more into works like Inspired Talks. I am more into the essence of spirituality. And the sentences that we cross when we read Inspired Talks, they're so life-giving. It's unthinkable. You don't get these sentences anywhere, and yet, when you analyze the scriptures of any religion, you find that more or less this is what they have been talking about. Now, we cannot go on comparing different religions, particularly it's very dangerous to discuss Islam. But as far as other religions are concerned, if you just try to understand what exactly the masters might have wished to tell, you will see that exactly this is what they were telling. And it's their followers who missed it somewhere. And Swamiji begins with, and see, today's talk, whatever little that we can cover, this is pure Advaith. You have been hearing of Advaith, and you might be hearing talks and might have read books and read some of those popular articles here and there. But what we are discussing here is pure Advaith. This is Advaith. And what is Advaith? What is the meaning of Advaith? Advaith means only one thing. You are divine, and you alone exist. If you say only you alone exist, sometimes people who do not understand, they might mistake it. And that's why I added that you are divine and you alone exist. This is Advaita, nothing else. When they talk about Aham Brahmasmi, this is what they are trying to say. You alone exist and you are divine, not as a human body, not as mind, not as ego, but as divine. And whatever Swamiji has been discussing in these inspired talks are essentially the corollaries. Once you realize this fact that man is divine, naturally there will be conclusions, there will be lots of corollaries. And the whole of inspired talks are mere corollaries of that fundamental truth. See, just say slightly going off track, and this is a work where we need to discuss lots of things. Imagine a situation, just a situation, highly hypothetical, absolutely hypothetical. Supposing India captures China, whenever invaders came with two purposes, wherever they went. One was to loot, another was to say that, well, you are uncultured and here we are to teach you culture. For example, whenever China goes anywhere, for example, it captured Tibet and it wanted to teach culture to Tibetans. And wherever Christianity went, those padris and housewives, they would call the people poor savages. Poor savages. And they were trying to uplift them, poor savages. And wherever Islam went with its sword, it tried to teach a new form of religion. So think of a hypothetical situation. India starts capturing, which India has never done, never done. If at all, we know that when Emperor Ashok was there, he had sent these missionaries, Buddhist missionaries, to Sri Lanka and other places. We know. There have been some such cases. But the way communist regime, particularly Russia and China, when they went and captured the smaller states, smaller nations, and wanted to educate them with a capital E, they had something to say. And same with Christianity, same with Islam, like that. And whenever a particular philosophy comes up, and by chance if it becomes powerful, it wants to teach others. Teaching is less, teaching lessons is more. They go to teach lessons. Now, supposing India goes and captures, say, Pakistan and captures China. What will India have to teach? Does India have anything unique about it? Think. Think of France. France, when French Revolution came, it talked about equality and fraternity and things like that. America, it boasts of democracy, although democracy came in Britain. But anyway, Britain talks about democracy. When it comes to democracy, it's Britain. And of course, America is now the main leader for democracy. And China, of course, it has its strange ideas. It has its own brand of communism, whatever that might mean. And it is trying to teach that to all these smaller nations by gobbling them up. Leaving those things aside, just think, supposing you as an Indian, you go to some country, you go to, say, a state, small country, small nation like Sri Lanka. And they say that, okay, I'm fascinated, I've heard of India. And tell me what is so unique about India? Is there anything that India can teach us? Is there anything that India, Indian religion, Indian culture can teach us? In all probability, you very sheepishly you will say, I have found my friends talking about such things. Well, India is all about casteism. India is about don't touch. India is about this, that. I mean, how silly. At best, you will say, well, we had glory in the past. See, whenever some nation wants to pat India in the back, it very condescendingly says, Oh, ancient culture. What do you mean by ancient culture? Do we have nothing to contribute in today's world? Are we fossilized? Are we artifacts of just some museum? Pieces of, as they say, fragile pieces of art? You keep in some museum and you say that, well, this is India. It had glory at sometimes, whatever glory that was. Now it is not relevant. Or you find some people telling religion is not relevant, so India is not relevant. What exactly India can give to the world? Do we have, you see, we don't have many viewers in this talk. Even then, I can see we have around 80 of us. We are discussing Swamiji, we are discussing inspired talks, we are discussing highest of philosophy and highest of religion. Just think, in one sentence, in half a sentence, if we have to say something, what is so unique about India for which India should be preserved? What is unique about Indian religion for which India should go out and spread its message throughout the world? Just think. Just think. China has it, howsoever stupid. Russia had it, howsoever stupid. And many other cultures had. What is India's message to the world? It's freedom. Freedom, freedom. Nothing else. Nothing less, nothing more. Freedom. Not equality and freedom, mind it. India doesn't believe in equality. When it was applied to the society, it had some disastrous consequences. Now, let's not get into that. We should know that India stands for freedom. Indian religion, that is Hinduism, stands for freedom. Vedanta stands for freedom. Advaita stands for freedom. No other religion stands for freedom. No other culture stands for freedom. Now, when country like Japan, our France or America, they talk about freedom, they are talking about freedom to loot others. India is not that. India is talking about spiritual freedom. And that spiritual freedom has to be expressed at every level. Now, when it comes to different things like, as we have this freedom of speech, India will never say about freedom of speech. It will say that it's your freedom, it's the freedom of others also. You should not be intruding on the freedom of others. Where from comes this idea of freedom? It comes straight away from Advaita. Advaita is all about freedom. It's only about freedom. Advaita is Vedanta, because Vedanta has all the aspects of religions that one can think of. Whatever is there in Christianity, whatever is there in other religions, including the Bhakti movement of India and say even Tantra and Shakta, whatever sect you can think of, everything is there in Advaita. Advaita means religion. Religion means Advaita. Swamiji is talking about this Advaita. And believe me, some of you might be thinking that I'm explaining these things a bit too much. No, I am not. These are so profound. And these are so subtle. The implications of each of these sentences that we have here is simply massive. And any one of these sentences can change your life forever. If you can just go on thinking over it, if you can go on meditating over it, you will see that your life has changed forever. And today we begin with the most devastating statement that there can be in religion. When we recognize a God, and every religion recognizes God, it is really only the self. It's your own self. Your own self. You. Which we have separated ourselves from. There is that self, and we have separated ourselves from and worship as outside of us. But it is our true self all the time, the one and only one God. See, innocuous. Such a simple statement appears so simple. Says that there's only the self, the true self, pure consciousness, and we have separated ourselves. Now, this separation is apparent, it's not a real separation. How? That self, it appears as mind and divides the infinite as if into two. Sri Ramakrishna used to give the example that think of a body of water, there is a lake, and you put a stick. Now, this water is divided into two. But is there any division? No, this division is apparent. The division is not real. Just like that. Mind is like that stick. So apparently, there's the big and there's the small. God is the big, I am the small. And why this division? Because of the stick, that is the mind. The mind is there between me and my God. Now the small is worshipping the big. The small is worshipping the huge. Vedanta uses the example of clay. There is clay, and you make an elephant of it, and you also make a mouse from that clay. And supposing both of them have senses, the mouse will always think that, oh, elephant is so huge. But actually, they are both same. There is that dividing line. There is that division of name and form. Elephant has got a name and form. The mouse has got a name and form. So mouse is feeling small. Elephant is feeling big. But actually, in essence, the mouse and the elephant, they are one and the same. This is Advaita. This is Vedanta. That it is really only the self. In Vedanta, Atman alone exists, Atman alone abides, self alone exists. For some mysterious reason, there is this birth of the mind. And mind is basically the dividing line that separates the infinite from the finite. This finite is not the real finite. It is just an apparent division where time, space, and causation exist. Now that infinite now appears bound within this time, space, and causation. And we think of happiness and misery, birth and death, smiles and tears, without realizing that in essence we are blissful. We pray to God. We pray, oh Lord, save me from my miseries. And we don't realize that in essence we are one. But till you say I, God remains God and I remain a devotee. This is a very fundamental difference. Sometimes people make this mistake where they think that Advaita means I am God. No, you are not God. The moment you use the term I, you and God become eternally separate. Now, this idea that in essence you are one with God, you will find everywhere. However, Acharya Shankara, he alone has very emphatically commented in Gita. If you listen to our talks on Gita in English, he says that when a person realizes that Aham Vasudeva, Sarva Bhutatma, I am the essence, I am the soul of every being. And I am one with Vasudeva, I am one with Krishna. That is when your miseries drop. That is when you become enlightened. Now, this idea, thinking that I am one with God, now this idea has been repeated in other scriptures too. For example, we find in Srimad Bhagavatam too, where gopis had this feeling where they say that they have become Krishna. And when people go in the depths of bhava, that feeling, the oneness with God, they do have that feeling that they are one with God. But here what is we are discussing is not a feeling. It's a fundamental spiritual fact. This is the truth that pure consciousness alone exists. For a mysterious reason, it appears, a part of it appears as this world, this universe, and there are infinite number of such universe. Now, those things are technical things. Those things are absolutely immaterial for us. What is really important for us is, I am there, this world is there, and God is there. Here, Swamiji is discussing the relationship between me and my God. And what is that relationship? That I have separated myself from that self. And I am worshipping myself. Actually, I am worshipping myself. If you are a Buddhist, when you worship Buddha, you are never conscious of this fact that Buddha alone exists, no one else exists. Buddha and you are non-separate. You are feeling separated yourself from Buddha. When if you are a Christian, you never realize this, that you and God, they are in essence one. And for some mysterious reason, some strange reason, you have separated yourself. And now you worship that. It's something like, of course, Swamiji will be talking about it. You first create an image. You carve a statue. And then you start worshipping it. Like we mentioned, like Pygmalion. The artist had made that statue and started loving it. Here it's slightly different. You separate yourself and then you worship it without realizing that it's you yourself. So, this is Advaita. If we can even think for a moment, that imagine, this is the truth. Actually, this is the truth. And what is the consequence of it? You are eternally free. No one can bound you. You are one with God. You are divine. You are eternally divine. This is the message that India has to give to the whole world. And this is what Swamiji was doing when he went to the West. That, man, you are divine. And to regain that balance, because that balance has been broken, we appear eternally separate from that self. We must counteract tamas by rajas, then conquer rajas by sattva. We had mentioned that essentially the realm of mind, the empire of mind, the dividing line is actually three qualities: inert, active, stable. And these three are described variously. The general name for them is tamas, rajas, and sattva. Inertness, that is the eternal enemy of progress. It is the eternal enemy of goodness. It has to be countered by rajas. Tamas has been the bane of India. Even today, when I see people, just to give you an example, we have always thought that Indians are so learned and India has been the land of scholarship. India has been the land of Brahmins. In India, a best-selling book, when you call bestseller, it sells around 10,000 copies. In America, a best-selling book sells at least 15 lakh. Why? Because we think we are learned. Actually, we are not learned. Just read any of our popular books. If you are asked offhand that name 5 books since independence, name 5 books about which most people know in India. Now, Let's not talk about Gitanjali because it got Nobel Prize, it has a name. But anyway, even if you take Gitanjali, can you name 5 books from India which most Indians know? No, you won't. 5 authors? No. Why? Because neither the authors are that great, and nor there is readership. This is the sign of tamas. And it is because of this tamas that India has been suffering. In spite of having the greatest of philosophy that there can be, that man is divine and freedom is my birthright, not in the political sense, but in the spiritual sense, and I am divine. Such great things, and yet India is suffering so much at every front, at every front. Why? Because in essence we are tamas. We don't want to do things, and yet we want all the privileges. We want that government will do everything for us. Even the dustbin in front of my house should be cleaned by the government. Everything. We are not going to do anything. Nothing. These are the signs of tamasic people. And Swamiji says that this has to be countered by rajas. So there were many occasions when Swamiji talked about kshatriya, that the class of people in India who were full of rajas, who were active. Actually, India needs that. So when you find this young generation trying to be go-getters, they are trying to achieve this and being, struggling to do this and do that. That's good. This is what Swamiji wanted. Go ahead. Because the road to sattva, the road to being good is through rajas. And even today, our generation, of course, was full of tamas, but new generation has some amount of rajas, finally. And before independence, it was all tamas, tamas, tamas. And then Swamiji says, sattva, the calm, beautiful state that will grow and grow until all else is gone. When you are into sattva, the sign of sattva is love for scholarship. The sign of sattva is happiness. You're always happy. You don't get morose. You don't get upset. You don't know what depression is. You don't know what sadness is. Because the inner beatitude, the light of spirituality starts shining within you. And you're never gloomy. You don't shed tears then. And you have love for scholarship. It's not about reading, stupid things and watching stupid serials. It's all about scholarship. You're established in knowledge. See, I've been deep into reading. I didn't have much work, and in Ramakrishna Mission, you don't have many avenues to spend your time. So I was into reading books. And I always found that even the cheap books, books by cheap authors, very ordinary authors, there's some kind of information, some kind of depth, which completely lacks in India. And when you read Indian authors, you find they're so superficial in anything. And when it comes to scientific research, and even there we are so superficial. Now the new generation that's coming up, they have some amount of energy, and we genuinely hope that things will change for India. And unless that new generation takes over, the possibility of understanding these profound spiritual truths is pretty bleak in India. Religion is for the strong. Religion is not meant for the inert. Religion is not meant for the lazy. Only when sattva is there, when the light of spirituality starts shining through our mind, that is what sattva is. Tamas is where mind is completely clouded. You don't know what is right from wrong. You just want to be inert. You want to be happy with the little that you have. And you think that you are sattvic. So he says that your personality grows and grows, and you become very powerful because you have love for scholarship. You have love for knowledge. Knowledge and happiness. Sukh sangein badnati, gyan sangein chanaga. The characteristic of sattva is that it loves knowledge, real knowledge, and it loves happiness. It knows no misery. It goes beyond it. And so Swami says, give up bondage. Give up bondage. Become a son. Be free. And then you can see the Father as did Jesus. Now again, this is a very profound statement. See, Christians believe that there is God the Father and there is God the Son, which is Jesus. Who can see the Father? The Son. Now, if you want to know God, if you want to see Father, you have to be the Son. Now, Swamiji, where he's talking about see the Father, it puts in inverted comma. The goal of life is to be divine. The goal of life is to be one with God. To see the Father, as Christians say. Yes, Swamiji is basing his talk on Christianity. See, when Christians talk about you're a born sinner, actually, in one sense, they're absolutely wrong because people normally think that, okay, fine, how come my son or how come my grandson, he be a born sinner? What mistake he has done? But mind it, worldliness is sin. The very fact that we are in this world, the very fact that we are not one with God is sin. So when we are born, automatically this weight of sin comes on us. It's a different thing that the Christians interpret it differently, but the fact is not being spiritual, that itself is sin. If you are not spiritual, Swamiji at one place says, I don't consider a Hindu unless he is spiritual. So if you are not completely spiritual, mind it, if you are not spiritual, you are not a Hindu. And if you are not spiritual, you are a sinner. When the Christians talk about sin, they take it at a different level, and which is absolutely not acceptable. Not in the sense that we understand sin, not in the understand of that we are damned, and not in the sense that we are going to the hell, but in the sense that if we are not spiritual, we are losing out on something. We are giving up the great for something very ordinary, that is sin, stupidity. Stupidity is the greatest sin that we can think of. Not being spiritual is the greatest stupidity. If you want to know God the Father, you have to be Jesus the Son. And to be Jesus the Son, first you have to be sattvic, you have to be pure. You have to be absolutely pure, no bondage there. The little bondage that you have, the little clinging that you have, the little attachment that you have will have only for knowledge, only for purity, only for peace, only for happiness, not for anything else. And from there, Swamiji says, infinite strength is religion and God. I tell you, these are the statements you can go on talking for days and days and days together. And this simple sentence, believe me, you take this sentence and you will not find its equivalent even in Sanskrit. Forget about different religions, other religions. Even in Sanskrit, you are not going to get the equivalent. Infinite strength is religion. We have Veer Bhogya Vasundhara. The strong enjoy this earth. But he says, infinite strength is religion and God. If you are religious, just think you are religious, you will be very strong. If you are not strong, then no, you are not religious. Strength should be oozing out from the every cell of your body if you are religious. Mind it. If you are religious, mind it. If you are religious, if you are truly religious, every breath that you take in will be of strength. And when you breathe out, you will be breathing out strength. Anyone near you will be feeling that strength. Just like when magnet comes near iron, its magnetic properties is transferred to that iron through the field, and magnet attracts iron. When you are walking down the streets, if you are a religious person, anyone coming near you should feel that joy, should feel that strength. Not because you are in this gerua, or not because you are put on some mark here, but they should instinctively feel that, well, here I am near a powerhouse. That is what religion does. If you chance to read the 12th chapter of Gita, and there Lord Krishna is discussing the characteristics of a devotee, and there he discusses all the traits, all the qualities. He says that a devotee is a perfect worker. He's absolutely perfect worker. He's an expert. Now, why Swamiji is talking about infinite strength is religion. See, religion has two aspects. Very commonly understood, religion has two aspects. One aspect is that every religion, if it's a religion, accepts that life continues after death. If a religion doesn't talk about life after death, continuation of life after death, then it's not religion. So when we talk about, see, humanism as religion, when someone talks, science is my religion, science is not religion, because science will not be discussing of life continuing after death, nor will humanism, nor Marxism, nothing. Every religion, the first fundamental test of truth of every religion is that it has to accept that life continues in one form or the other. It does not matter in what form. It might be as rebirth. It might be your continuation in the heaven or hell or wherever it is. Life has to continue. If life does not continue after death, then that system is not religion. It cannot be called religion. So Hinduism is a religion, so is Christianity, and so is Buddhism. Why? Because they all believe that life continues after death. If you don't believe that your life will continue after death, then believe me, you cannot be a religious person. If you say that this birth is, this life is everything, as they say, what? You only live once, YOLO, you only live once. Whatever they may be, they can never be religious. You can say, this is my religion, yes, for you. But actually, no. And second, every religion will connect you with God in one form or the other. Even, say, when we are talking about, say, Buddhism, and apparently Buddhists don't talk about God, but they of course made Lord Buddha himself God. That is, every religion will say that this human body, or whatever body that might be, or mind, that is not the last truth. You are much more than that. And that much more than that continues even after your death. Now see the consequences of it. It's such a simple thing. I wonder if you are willing to consider these things, and you are willing to think. If it's a fact that life continues after death, that means you shouldn't be scared of death. And a man who is not scared of death, can you imagine his power? Just think of these jihadis. They are ready to kill themselves, and they are ready to kill anybody simply because they believe that their God will be waiting for them with huris and all those things. No, we don't approve of such things. We are not discussing that. What I'm saying that the very idea, I know, if you can genuinely feel, if you truly believe that life continues, you will continue to be there after your death. Imagine the power. Imagine just the power. Swamiji at one place says, he says, I have conquered death because I have seen God. He meant Sri Ramakrishna. Once you believe in God, once you believe that Sri Ramakrishna is God, once you believe that Lord Jesus is God, you have conquered death. Because you will not be scared of death anymore. You know that life will continue. And secondly, that you are divine. You are not this human body. So all the miseries that come to you, all the pain that come to you, they are all transitory. They're nothing. They're inconsequential. Can you imagine the strength? What holds you back? What binds you down? The miseries. You think you are small, and that's why you are shackled. You are scared of your death. You are scared of the death of your dear ones. Believe me, even when I was a kid, even when I was a kid, death never affected me. I don't know. I might be unusual in that sense. I remember I was hardly 5 year old, 5 or 6 year old. I am not very sure. And my grandfather passed away. He was very famous person and all. And I had absolutely, I was not affected in any way. So one of my uncles, elderly uncle, he was trying to tell me, nothing has happened to your grandpa. We have just put him in Ganga and we will bring him back after some days. So I laughed to myself. He said, why these people are telling lies? I know he's dead. Why they're talking like this to me? Even as a kid, I'm telling. And that feeling has continued with me throughout my life. Call it unusual, call it abnormal, whatever you call. Death never touches me. No one's death. No one's. I have loved, my love has been only for some of my acharyas, that is monk teachers. And they have started passing away one after another. I do shed tears. I mean, just I remember one or two drops come. It's in memory of the great times that we had and the feeling that, well, I will not be able to listen to him anymore. I try to put this feeling in my new work, Kratu, which will be out, say, within a year or so. See, it takes you beyond death. Once it takes you beyond death, what are you scared of? Nothing. Second thing that religion gives you is that you are not the mere body. Now, that is where I have not fully succeeded. And that's why pain and misery, they do affect me a bit. Infinite strength is religion. If you are truly religious, it should give you strength and it should give you infinite strength. And that is what God is. God is infinite strength. Why? Because the pure consciousness, which is your own self separated from you and outside, rather, you are separated from that hues. God is like the ocean and we are like the drop separated from the ocean. And the drop is wondering at the majesty of the ocean without realizing that in essence, it is one with that ocean. It worships that ocean without realizing that in essence, it is one with the ocean. But once it realizes that, look, I and that ocean, they are one. Imagine the strength. Imagine your strength. It says, infinite strength is religion and God. The two aspects. One, death is just a phase. Second, you are not this body. These are the two major aspects of religion. Any religion, whatever religion you take, you'll find that these are the two things that they will be discussing. Avoid weakness and slavery. Naturally, these are the two corollaries. Why weakness? If you are true religious, you cannot have weakness. And if you are truly religious, you cannot have slavery. And then comes again one of those quotable quotes. Swamiji is kind of summing up. You are only a soul if you are free. Only when you are free of slavery, the idea of slavery, the idea of weakness, then you are soul. Otherwise, you are a body. Swamiji uses semicolon. So semicolon implies sentence. So you are only a soul if you are free. There is immortality for you if you are free. If you are free, you are immortal. Mortality comes to the bound. If you are free, how can you be mortal? You are immortal. And there is God if He is free. God has to be free from everything. And if you chance to listen to my talks on Gita in English, of course, in Bengali also it's going on, but English, complete talks are there. You see, Lord Krishna is repeatedly talking about his freedom. He is not bound by anything. He doesn't have any duty. He has no responsibility, nothing. He is free. God is free. And I am in essence one with God. Just that separated. Once separated. But actually we are one. So in essence, I am also free. Once you know you are free, you are soul. And if you think you are soul, you have to think that you are free. It's amazing sentences. Mind it, these are not the words of Swamiji. These are not the words of a philosopher. These are not the words of a thinker. These are not the words of a poet. But mere corollaries of a fundamental truth. This is a fundamental truth realized by every saint, every sage, every prophet. What Swamiji is saying here are the mere derivatives. And naturally, the world for me, not I for the world. Obviously, how can you? This actually beautifully comes in Raj Yoga. And we are having Raj Yoga classes on Saturdays. Some of you might be attending to those talks. Raj Yoga beautifully puts it. When you think of yourself as body and mind, you look at this universe and you are awed by it and you say, oh, so huge, my God. And I am not even a speck. I'm not like a speck. As you go on meditating deeply, as you go deeper and deeper, slowly layers of truth lay bare before you. As your knowledge increases, because truth has become more evident before you, you get more and more power. And finally, you realize that you are Purusha. You are pure consciousness. And then you realize that the entire Prakriti, forget about this universe, the entire empire of name and form that there can be, time, space, causation, is like a speck before you. It's nothing compared to your majesty. Nothing compared to your majesty. The world for me, not I for the world. Right now I am for the world. I feel that the world is crushing me. I feel that the world is using me. I feel pain. I feel suffering. I feel sucked out. But no, I am the eternal enjoyer. How can anybody enjoy me? I am the eternal enjoyer. I am the king. I am the big boss, as they say. So good and evil are ourselves, not we theirs. Unfortunately, we are continuously goaded and guided by our good and evil tendencies. And we get so deeply affected by good and evil within us as also outside us. It is the nature of the brute to remain where he is, not to progress. It is the nature of man to seek good and avoid evil. It is the nature of God to seek neither, but just to be eternally blissful. So Swamiji is here discussing tamas, rajas and sattva. A person whose mentality is full of tamas, that is inertness, he doesn't want to progress. He wants to be where he is. You know, in India, chalta hai is very famous expression, chalta hai. Status quo, let it be. Jaisa hai, vaisa hai. As it is, let it be. This is tamas. Americans will never allow it like this. No, never. They're a young race. They are rajasic. So, there are people who like to be inert. They don't like change. And there are people who want to seek, who want to progress. But the real saints and God, he doesn't seek anything. He is beyond all this. Because he is eternally blissful. You work only when you have some wants. Why should God want anything? And so Swamiji concludes, let us be God. Let us be God. That's the crux. Whatever we have been discussing. We began with, we are separated from the self and we worship it as God outside. As an infinite strength. That is the religion, that is God. Concludes, let us be God. Let us be God. See, can you imagine the power of these words? Let us be God. Make the heart like an ocean, go beyond all the trifles of the world. Be mad with joy, even at evil. See, there have been many occasions when I talked about my Acharya, Ram Maharaj, Swami Mokshidananda ji. I've been fascinated by him. And I chanced to meet him pretty early in my life. And I was pretty lucky that way. So, when I was pretty young, once we had to go to our hospital at Sevapatistan. In those days, I was at the training center. We have a training center at Belur Math where every new brahmachari in Ramakrishna mission, brahmachari means one who is in white dress. And one has to stay in that dress at least for 9 years, minimum 9 years. And then he gets this ochre, gerua. And in between, for 2 years, one has to be in the training center. And training center has acharyas, that is teachers, and there's the head known as principal. So Ram Maharaj was an acharya there, senior, but he was an acharya. So once I had to go to Sevapatistan for some work, and then our principal Maharaj had told that Ram Maharaj is there, hospitalized, go ask him if he needs something, because he was a very highly respected person. And Maharaj must have been hardly 60 or so at that time. I was not very well known to him. He didn't know me at that time. He was not yet taking my classes, but I had heard so much about him that I was fascinated. So I was very happy that I had officially something to tell him. So after my work was done, I went to Maharaj, made pranams and told that, well, our principal Maharaj has asked me to ask in case you need something. So, he was ill and he was hospitalized and he laughed uproariously, even in that state, uproariously. And he told, no, I don't need anything. It would be wonderful if he can send 4 persons to carry me on their shoulders to the cremation ground. And with that, he laughed. Amazing. And I was hardly 25, 26 at that time. And somehow that laughter was so infectious. As I told you, death is not something that touches me. But even then, that strength, that there is nothing in this world that I want. And laughing at his own misery. Okay, it's like this. And later, he had chest issues. And there was a time when he was living 14 to 16 hours just on oxygen. And when I used to go meet him, he would just laugh and say, okay, fine, you can see what my plight is. Never complain. I never heard him complaining of anything. Same, Bhuteshananji, same. And I know lots of monks, they never, even when they are seriously ill, you ask them, they will just laugh. Oh, it's like that. They're just laughing. Nothing touches them. They're beyond all this. And I have seen both our Bhuteshanji Maharaj, Ram Maharaj, and many others. When things are going bad, even that does not touch them. Absolutely beyond all this. This is what Swamiji says. Be mad with joy, even at evil. Even you find that things are going wrong, just laugh. Don't shed tears. Don't be upset. And believe me, depressive people, they disturb me like anything. See the world as a picture and then enjoy its beauty, knowing that nothing affects you. Can you visualize it for a moment? That this world is nothing but a canvas, it's just a picture. This infinite creation of God is just like art gallery, where this world is just like a piece of art. And or maybe if you can take this life, if you see this life as a museum, every event that's taking place is just a piece of art. As in piece of art. If you see any of those great masters, be it Van Gogh, be it Picasso, be it, you find different kinds of art. What do you do? Even when you see a sign of some killing or something, you say, oh my God, what a wonderful painting. The Last Supper by Michelangelo. You know that Jesus is going to be crucified the next day. If you chance to read Bible where the description of the Last Supper is there, you start feeling pain. Oh my God, Jesus is going to be crucified the next day. But when you look at that painting, you feel, oh, what a beautiful thing. War scenes are there. There are many famous portraits where wars have been portrayed. Fighting is there, killing is there. You say, what a beautiful painting. What a beautiful painting. This world is just an art gallery where every scene, every sight is just a portrait. Admire it. Enjoy it. When you watch a movie, the villain has to act the villain. If the villain is acting like a nice man, you don't enjoy the movie. The villain has to act like villain. Evil has to come like evil. Children finding glass beads in a mud puddle, that is the good of the world. Look at it with calm complacency. See good and evil as the same. Both are merely God's play. Enjoy all. When we think of good and when we strive for good, when we want good, we forget that. Small kids, when they play in mud and find something funny and they get so excited about it. And that's exactly what's happening with us. We need certain basic things to run our life. And once you reach beyond a level, you don't even care for that. Be happy with that. Don't be running after only the good. Don't be running after only the pleasurable. Why? Because as Swamiji says, let us be God. God will not be affected by these small things because He is beyond all this. He's all powerful. He's so powerful if He wants. He can smash the entire universe by mere wish. And actually, we have that power. We need to be filled up with that kind of dispassion. We need to be filled up with that kind of strength, with that kind of power. So, here ends a topic. Next topic, where Swamiji says, my master used to say, all is God. This we will take up in the next class. Actually, we can cover this whole thing, this talk of the 25th June in 5 minutes, but then I think our time is up and there is a class after this. So we end here. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you.